Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. Yes, I think Spurs managed to find a new low for the season, which was quite impressive, bearing in mind there's been a few pretty rubbish lows. And then, Conte walked in. And like I said right at the start, before I went off in a different tangent, I felt that Conte wanted to force the narrative post-match. And I think because Harry Kane was involved, and the narrative was very much about tiredness and a lack of energy. And I think because there were a few national journos in the post-match, maybe not so much regulars as well, they kind of seized on that. That was fine. That's their audience. So it was almost like he was kind of getting away with it. And you might hear my question at the end of it. It is a question of a man that probably has guessed already he's going to have a long trip home, and is not buying the fact that this was about a lack of energy or tiredness, and essentially just asked the question. I'll say the question a little bit. Well, actually, all right. Essentially what the question was, I'll say it now, was that Spurs have failed to score I wasn't having any of it. I was like, Spurs have failed to score in the first half of their past 8 matches. That's ridiculous. In their past 5 domestic matches, so not including the European ones, they've gone 2-0 down. 5 matches in a row in domestic games, they've gone 2-0 down. So essentially, he'd said all this energy stuff, and I went, yeah, but there's all that, Antonio. And essentially, how do you fix that? That's clearly the issue. How do you turn that around? And I think he was a little bit like, oh man, I tried to change the narrative of this, and this annoying bloke that's there every week is driven up to Nottingham just to shove that in my face. I want to give you the quotes that he said in his initial stuff and see whether you agree with it or not, because I didn't. He said, that was actually the other thing that surprised me, was that all those fans, and I should stress, I was getting into the game for free. So, I can't whinge entirely about my evening, and I'm getting paid to be there. Whereas those poor Spurs fans had actually made the trek up to Nottingham, paid out their own money, and then had to watch that utter garbage served up to them. I don't think any of them would have expected in the post-match interview for Antonio Conte to be thanking his players. And it just didn't sit right with me. It didn't. And that's why I think my question was a bit more kind of to him. So this is his answer. Bearing in mind what we'd just been served up, a 2-0 defeat against the bottom team in the Premier League, who had made 9 changes, and Spurs had put out a pretty strong team. Barely registered many shots on goal at all in the game, Spurs. So, this was his answer. The performance, I have to be honest, I think maybe tonight the energy was really poor from us. Don't forget it was the 12th game in a really short period. The games we played in the past, every game was really, really difficult, and we lost a lot of mental energy in the Champions League and in the Premier League, physical energy. In our minds and hearts, we came with a desire to overcome the opposition, and for this reason, if you ask me if something was wrong about my players, I tell you not, because I have only to say thanks to my players. They are really tired. I tried to manage the situation, for example, in midfield with Højbjerg in the first half and Bentancur in the second half, because they were really tired with the risk of injuries. The same with Harry Kane and with Harry. Until this morning, we waited to see if he could start or not, but in this situation, he was the only striker for us. For this reason, I can only say thanks for the availability they show me. In our hearts and minds was the desire to go ahead in the competition, but the difference was the energy. It was really different between us and Nottingham Forest. So, that wasn't the answer to my question. That was the answer to the first question. I think someone, maybe Sky, I think it was a lady from Sky, asked just simply, what did you make of the performance, really? I didn't like that. I didn't like all the hearts and minds and stuff. It sounded very political. It sounded very spin and I didn't look. I'll give him Kane. I absolutely think tiredness wise, I get the Kane angle. The guy has played almost every minute going, and I appreciate the fact that Conte has not had the ability to rotate him, and that's because of Sonny being out, of course, Richarlison being out. Richarlison's probably the main one because he's more the direct replacement for Kane. And then you've got Kulusevski being out. You could actually even use him as a striker because of his frame if you needed to. And then on top of that, you've got Lucas Moura, who he's just been having this inflamed tendon problem right from the start of the season. And he wasn't even in the squad yesterday. He rocked up with the squad, but he was not available to play. Same with Ben Davies. I don't know whether that was injury related or just they thought it'd give him a rest from the team. I don't know. But he wasn't even on the bench. So there wasn't really a Kane alternative. There wasn't. I'm absolutely going to give him that. However, when it comes to the rest of the team, I really don't know if I can get on board with the whole tired narrative. I just don't know if I can. And that's because Conte's kind of lack of desire to kind of rotate his squad much throughout this tough period of matches. That's my issue with it. It's like, I have no doubt some of those players are knackered, but that is because they've been overplayed. And this, we've said it every week, this kind of lack of trust that Conte has got in his fringe players, rotation options, whatever you want to call them. So I don't really buy that narrative. And for me, I'm going to look at this on paper, and this is with no disrespect to Nottingham Forest, because I thought they utterly deserved it on the night. I thought they played well, they looked good going forward. Could have had more goals were it not for Fraser Forster. But if I'm looking at that on paper, I'm sorry, but what was essentially Nottingham Forest's B team, because they made 9 changes from the Premier League game, Spurs' B team should be good enough to beat the bottom of the league's B team. I'm sorry, but it should. I know that's on paper, and I know Spurs have shown in the past that isn't always the case at all. So their B team should have beaten their B team, but Tottenham put out almost an A team, and there was no plan that came together from this A team. It just was naff. It was really, really naff. Like I say, Steve Cooper made 9 changes, whereas Spurs, the whole spine of the team really was the same Tottenham team that we've seen pretty much week in, week out. I just wonder whether there could have just been more rotation. I look at someone like Japhet Tanganga. Japhet is just, again, another one who's had some sticky moments, but ultimately has just never been trusted since. You can't tell me that there was games in the last month or two when Japhet got back from his injury that he could not have come into the side. And given the likes of Dyer, I suppose if you're pushing Longley inside, or Romero, a little bit of a rest at times, maybe Romero would be available for this period rather than playing through injury. That's exactly what happened to Romero. He was playing through injury and just made it worse and worse and worse. And now he's at this position where the club just had to kind of not play him anymore.